One of the most tragic figures of the Tudor period has to be the fifth wife of King Henry VIII, Catheirne Howard. Historians believed that when she was roughly 19 years old in 1542 that she was led to the scaffold inside the Tower of London, and that she was then executed by an axeman who performed the job in one swift strike of his sharp weapon. Catherine was executed for allegedly cheating on Henry VIII with one of his close courtiers, Thomas Culpeper, who was actually one of her distant cousins. But Catherine was a woman who today has experienced a slightly reformed reputation, as she is considered an abused woman who was taken advantage of by a number of men, including Henry VIII, who only wanted one thing from her: to sleep with her. But another shocking part of her story is that Henry VIII ordered her remains to be covered in lime, sparingly, after her execution. The reason this was done was to ensure that her body was literally wiped off the face of the earth, and the king may have then believed by doing this that he was ridding himself of his terrible fifth marriage. One piece of evidence that sent the young queen to her execution scaffold was a love letter that she wrote to Thomas Culpeper, and this was damningly used to condemn her. Catheirne Howard married King Henry VIII inside of Oatlands Palace on the 28th of July 1540, on the same day that Thomas Cromwell, the king's former chief adviser, was executed on Tower Hill. Nothing says wedding present like the head of your former best friend. But Catherine was just a teenager and the king was 49. She was young and positive, but also carefree and naive. She did not get involved in matters of government and state, but she also was not coronated as a queen, but was given the title of Queen Consort. Following the marriage, the pair then left London, as the plague was causing chaos in the capital, and they went on a progress north to different towns and cities, staying in different castles and palaces. But Henry VIII was known to have been growing in a foul mood, and he was having problems with his ulcerous legs, which were giving him a lot of pain. But around this time, Catherine, the young queen, began to grow close with her husband's favourite courtier, a man named Thomas Culpeper, who it was said had succeeded the king in the queen's affections. And Catherine may have even considered marrying him when she was a lady-in-waiting. It's clear they may have had a longer and more complex relationship than what is sometimes considered an adulterous liaison and fling, but Culpeper referred to the queen as "my sweet little fool" in a letter, and the pair then, in the spring of 1541, began to meet in secret, and Jane Boleyn, the former sister-in-law of Anne Boleyn, was arranging these meetings. It's considered that the pair were physical at this time behind the king's back, and the scandal and gossip reached the king's court, and people began to talk about rumours of the queen cheating on the king. The pair must have known the extent of their relationship could have had the deadliest consequence, but Thomas Cranmer, a key ally of the king, then began to look into these rumours. He may have been doing this for more favour in the eyes of the king, but he began to look inside of the past of Catherine Howard, and he also found that possibly the queen may have agreed to marry another man, Francis Dereham, who was working inside of her household, and this, if true, would have invalidated the royal marriage. Cranmer listened to many who spoke of the rumours, and he also looked into her past behaviour under the care of her grandmother, Agnes Tilney. But what Cranmer found when he investigated further was a love letter that would result in the queen and her lover being sent for their executions. This was a letter that outlined the intentions Cranmer believed of the queen, and it was written in her handwriting, and even rather innocently and tragically has a number of grammatical mistakes inside of its craft. The letter that sent the queen to the execution scaffold inside the tower reads, "Master Culpeper, I heartily recommend me unto you, praying you to send me word how that you do. It was showed me that you were sick, the which thing troubled me very much till such time that I hear from you, praying you to send me word how that you do. For I never longed so much for a thing as I do to see you and to speak with you, the which I trust shall be shortly now. that which doth comfort me very much when I think of it, and when I think again that you shall depart from me again, it makes my heart die to think what fortune I have, that I cannot be always in your company. My trust is always in you, that you will be as you have promised me, and in that hope I shall trust upon you still, praying you that you will come when my Lady Rochford is here, for then I shall be best at leisure to be at your commandant, thanking you for that you have promised me to be so good unto that poor fellow, my man, which is one of the griefs that I do feel, to depart from him, for then I do not know one that I durst trust to spend to you, and therefore I pray you take him to be with you, that I may sometimes hear from you one's thing. I pray to you to give me a horse for my man, for I had much ado to get one, and therefore I pray send me one by him, and in so doing I am as I said afore, and thus I take my leave of you, trusting to see you shortly again, and I would you was with me, that you might see what pain I take in writing to you. Yours as long as life endures, Catheirne. One thing I had forgotten, and that is to instruct my man, is to tarry here with me still, for he says, whatso moreover you bid him, he will do it. Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, had everything he needed, and he had the key piece of evidence that would topple the Queen. A number of his powerful enemies at court also portray him in a very favourable light to the king. This letter was ruthless, and it also pinned blame on Jane Boleyn, Lady Rochford. But the way Catheirne signs off the letter shows her intent. Yours as long as life endures, as if she was giving over herself and her love to Culpeper, whilst she was still married to the king. This was written in her handwriting, and she even noted how difficult it was for her to write this letter, as she was trying to find the words to the man she may very well have loved. Cranmer then went to the king whilst he was praying inside of Hampton Court's Chapel Royal, and he told Henry through a note what he had found out. The king then asked for her to be questioned by Cranmer and others, and Cranmer claimed that I found her in such a lamentation and heaviness as I never saw no creature, so that it would have pitied any man's heart to have looked upon her. But Culpeper and Derham were both executed for their involvement with the Queen, and they had been found guilty of high treason. Culpeper, being one of the king's favourites, was beheaded by axe, and Derham was hanged, drawn, and quartered, being subjected to a harrowing ordeal. Many members of Catheirne Howard's family were then also arrested, and they were locked up inside the Tower of London, and were also accused of concealing and hiding the Queen's treason. Some were sentenced to life imprisonment. But Catheirne Howard was executed on the 13th of February 1542 at 7 a.m, and she was taken to the scaffold, and there she met the axeman. She had practised the night before, resting her head on the block to ensure she had a quick execution, which would not be botched, but there was a belief that she uttered the words on the scaffold, I die a queen, but I would rather die the wife of Culpeper. Now this is a legend which is probably not true, and many who witnessed her execution did not mention this, and instead claimed that she was being worthy and justly punished, and also that she deserved to die 1,000 deaths for her behaviour behind the king's back. Now after her execution, the king ordered that her remains should be covered in lime and then hastily buried. There has never been any remains identified that have been linked to the tragic queen, but there is a plaque that acts as a memorial to her inside the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, where she was buried. But the letter that condemned her, as well as Culpeper, was scandalous, and it was everything that Thomas Cranmer needed to have the king sign off on her execution and her downfall. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.